Hi, I'm Sherry McGill, and you're watching Lessons Learned. Welcome back to Lessons Learned. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this block, which is called Totally Tulips by Jenny Doan of the Missouri Star Quilt Company. You should go to her website, the Missouri Star Quilting Company, and order this pattern as a digital download for only $5.95. There you will find all of the measurements to make the quilt exactly as Jenny Doan made it. As a matter of fact, she also has a YouTube channel where a tutorial was made of this block several years ago. But this is going to be my version. It's slightly different, but not too much. And you'll see that these blocks are long and narrow. They come out to 9.5 by 19.5, and some of them have background strips at the top, and the other half will have background strips at the bottom. So that way when you put your rows together, the tulips will just be up and down across the rows, and then you will make however many rows you want. And in between each block you will put a fabric strip of background of the same color, so that makes it all congruent. Okay, so here's what you need basically for this quilt top. You need a supply of 5-inch squares, and you can use charm packs or you can cut out your squares from fabric. I did a little bit of both, and these are all K-facet fabrics that I'm using today, and I just picked out from my stash ones that kind of complement each other in the same color tones but not the same colors, so that we'll have lots of colorful variety with these. And then also my stems are a gray, and those are 1.5 by 9.5, 8.5. And then the top and bottom piece are these, and these are 2.5 by I believe it's 10, 9.5. You need a supply of background blocks that are 2.5-inch squares. You also need a supply of background that are 10-inch squares, and then your fabric for your leaf. In her pattern, she used a variety of fabrics for her leaves. Not all of the leaves on each block were the same color, but they did come out in this configuration. These 4 blocks had the same color in them. She just had more of a variety. I'm using the same leaf design in all of my blocks, so that's a little bit different. So the first thing you need to do is go through and attach one of these squares, and I've already marked it diagonally once, and you just put it in the corner, one corner of all of these blocks. Now you can make them one at a time. I've been kind of designing my color combinations as I go. So I've been doing 4 blocks at a time, and then my leaf bottom section. But you can certainly sit and just go through, depending on how many tulip blocks you want to make, and chain piece one of these in the corner of every single one of these. And it doesn't matter which corner, because you're going to be able to turn it all 4 ways. So if you put your block here and turn it, cut it, trim it, you're going to be able to turn it this way or this way. So it's not going to matter. So you can sit and chain piece those until you're done with your stack. Also, your leaf pattern, it's asking us to cut 10-inch squares of background, and also to be able to mark diagonally from one corner to the other, both directions. And then you're going to lay one of your 10-inch leaf pieces underneath there, right sides together, and you will be sewing on either side of that line, both of them. So you're going to sew an X on the left hand side of each line and on the right hand side of each line. And then you'll be cutting on the line. And then that'll make your, no, you'll be cutting through here, opposite of the line. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how to put one block together. Okay, so now that we've got our 2 lines of stitching on either side of those drawn lines, we can cut through those lines. Careful not to move them. Now you can either stack these on top of each other and cut through the middle, or just leave them right where they are. Just find a good line on your ruler and your mat here. Cut straight up through the middle. And the same thing through the side. Make sure I cut that. So now we have 8 pieces, and we only need 4 for one block. So keep in mind that these pieces here will be saved for the next block. So now what we need to do is trim these down. First we need to press. You can press open or press to one side, whichever you prefer, and then also trim these down to 4.5. Accidentally broke my ruler today, but it's still going to work. It broke off right at the 4.5 inch. So I'm placing my 4.5 inch dotted line on my trimmer ruler on that stitching line that we made. 4.5. Not too much to trim off, looks like. So there's that. So I have to do that 3 more times and go to the iron and iron these open. Now I have my 4 pieces for my leaf part of my block. So we will arrange them thus and so that it forms a nice little leaf pattern. Sometimes you have to just keep turning them until they look right. But the idea is to have the leaf going upwards like this one. So I'm going to take one of my 1.5 by 8.5s. That goes there. So the first thing we're going to do is sew this column together, and then sew this to one side of one column, and then the other column to the stem. So let me go do that. Okay, so there's our bottom half. We'll set that aside. Now we're going to do some fun stuff and do our 4 quadrants of our tulip flower. So let's go ahead and pick a few out that would be fun together. looks good. Actually, I think take this one this way. Do something a little more interesting. If I look at it too long, I'll be changing it up again. So I need to take 4 of these and sew them into these corners. Now if you lay out each one of your tulip flower heads a certain way, you're going to want to put this on a certain way. If you're just going through and chain stitching all of these onto your squares, you get what you get. And when you get done, you know, you're going to have plenty of variety to move things around and change things up. So it's just a matter of preference. I kind of enjoy doing one block at a time, simply because I don't know, it just takes the monotony out of it. So I'm going to go sew these on now. Trim this off 1/4 inch from that line. We're going to sew right on the line this time. Unlike the leaf where we sewed on either side, we're going to sew on the line. Alright, so I'm going to go and do that. Probably should keep these in columns, because we're sewing in columns. So I am able to chain piece the 4 that I'm doing. I'm going to cut these apart and show you how I cut off this corner piece. Just take any ruler that has a 1/4 inch or so seam line there and just cut it off. Save these. If you want to put a line of stitching through there, you'll have another little block for another project. And then there are your corner background pieces that form your tulip, and down here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of those and go over to the iron them open. And I'll show you what that looks like before we sew them together. Okay. Now, let's see if I can remember how I wanted these. I think I had this one over here, maybe. And this one over here. And then this one, nope. This one. And this one. Nope, that's not how I had it. I had it like this. Honestly, I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to sew this column together and this column together, and then take those two and sew them together in the middle, and that will form this area of the block. There's no stem, of course, so we just have these two columns to put together. Alright, so there we go. There's our flower head. You may want to put a pin where this intersection is, right here and here. And if you have to pick one that's more crucial than others, pick this one, because it's going to show up the most, I think, depending on your fabric too. But using these K-facet prints, it's very forgiving. Those didn't quite line up, even though my blocks are the right size, so not sure what happened there, but a little bit of a cutting imperfection, but I'm not too worried about it. So now what we can do is put our leaf bottom and stem onto the flower head. So let's go ahead and do that, and kind of want to make sure that's right in the center. Not super crucial like these are and these, but we're going to go ahead and sew that together. There's our new block. One more step. Take one of your 2.5 by 9.5 background. Either add it to the top or the bottom, depending on where you're at. I'm just going to make half and half, and currently I have 3 with it at the top and 2 at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and put mine onto the bottom here. Just sew that directly onto the bottom. Okay, so there we go. Now the only thing left to do, you do not have to square these blocks up usually. I just take the long ruler and get some of my extra raveling off, just to kind of keep things neat. Not too bad. Seems like the higher quality the fabric, like this Cafe facet fabric, and then my Riley Blake or Tula background, ravel quite a bit. The finer the fabric, the more the raveling, but that's okay. We want to use nice things for our quilts if we can. If not, you can use other things, whatever we have. You could certainly make this scrappy. I think it would be adorable scrappy, or maybe in some ginghams, or even a wide selection of solids would be cool. Yeah. So here we are. Now later on in this process, when you get your rows together, you're going to see that one's lower, one's higher, one's lower, one's higher. And that kind of gives you a little dancing effect of your tulips. And then there will also be 2.5-inch long strips between your columns here, or yeah. So this is just an imagination what it might look like, but that's what's you would have one continuous strip between the rows. So you'd be constructing your rows up and down first, and then put the sashing in between, which is kind of opposite of how we usually do it. But I don't have the calculation of what that is, but these are 2.5 in between here too. And you can make as many rows as you want. I think her pattern has 7 rows, and I believe there's 6 across and 7 down, something like that. But you can certainly make it any size that you like. So try it out. It's very fun, very easy, goes together very nicely. I'm just really enjoying it. I've done these 6 blocks now, and anxious to get the rest going so we can see what this finished quilt top looks like. All right, try it out, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.